Hi, my name's Charlie King. I'm with Heroic Fatherhood, and welcome to your Mentor's Moment. Here we answer questions asked by real dads seeking advice, insight, or a different perspective on an issue that they're facing in their lives. In today's question, a dad asks, how should a father act around his gay son? Well, I'm guessing from the tone of your question, or your question in general, that the idea of having a gay son is new to you, and it's probably not been something that you'd thought about before. Now, you may have grown up in a household where being gay, or in a community where being gay was either you didn't know anybody being gay, or it wasn't okay to be gay, or we just didn't talk about it. Generally, when we don't talk about it, very often that's usually a reflection of there's something wrong with it because it's not an open conversation. But I totally want to help you out here. So here's the thing. This can make the idea of having a son or daughter who is choosing an orientation that's different than the one that you're used to or one that you approve of can be super confronting for a dad. Often it's most confronting because you don't know a lot about it, because if it's something that you don't know about, it's not likely that you've been doing research about it or understand it. And if you're asking this question, it's probably like, I just don't know, right? Like, we're just going with the fact that it's like, I just don't know what to do or how to be around it or how to be comfortable around it. Here's what I know deep in my heart. Like, seriously, here's what I know deep in my heart. He is still the boy that you raised. He is still that little boy who sat on your lap. He is still that little boy that threw a baseball or a football with you. He's still a little boy that rode bikes around the yard. He is still that little boy that sat at your dinner table. He's still that little boy that you tucked into bed. There's nothing about your boy that has changed. He is still that little boy. He may not have put a name to how he was in the world until recently, which in our society we call gay, but he has always been that boy. He has always been that boy in your life. And he's a brave boy at that. Now, he's a young man, right? He's a young man, and it sounds like he's come out to you. He's got huge amounts of bravery. Because if this wasn't on your radar that he might be, or if it wasn't on your radar that that was something that was out there in the world that might show up in your family or in people that you know, it's probably a big surprise, and he knew that. And sharing with you that piece tells me two things. You've raised an incredibly brave boy, and he loves you a lot. Like, a lot. Like, he didn't have to. He could have kept it to himself, but he didn't. He came out and he shared it with you in his life. And here's what you should know too. There's no reason not to be as proud of him today as you were before. As a matter of fact, in my world, I'd be prouder, right? That kind of bravery coming out in our society, where it is still a taboo in some communities to be gay, takes huge amounts of bravery. And here's the thing. He still craves your love. He still craves the love of you and your spouse and your siblings. You are his core relationships in the world. You are the man that he models himself after, regardless of where he's at with his orientation. He is going to be some version of you as he gets older, no matter what. I think you've done a great job, because if he's open to the idea that he may be different than everyone around him, then you taught him that. And that's something to be proud of in my book. He trusts you enough to share it with a family. That means you've created a really strong bond in the household. Once again, something to really lean on. Now, you have a choice. You and I both know that parenting doesn't stop when kids become adults. Parenting goes on. It just changes. You have a choice in this moment. You can continue to raise this beautiful, brave, powerful, connected man in your life and encourage him and empower him to make great choices in this world. Or you can make the other choice. I think if you're asking this question, you're asking the right one. And I think that you want to stay connected to your son. My invitation for you is, don't treat him any different than you ever have before. It's okay to tell him you're uncomfortable. It's okay to tell him you don't understand, but not from judgment, but from like, I just don't understand. I've never had this in my life. Can you help me understand better? He probably doesn't understand all of it either, but I guarantee you he may want to communicate about it, because he wants to be in relationship with you and he's seeking your approval. He won't make his decision on your approval, but he seeks it nonetheless. Lastly, he still needs you and he wants you in his life. If he didn't, he wouldn't have told you. He'd just have moved out. And I'm guessing because you asked this question here, you still want him in your life too. His properties of adultness, manliness, and humanness do not change with his orientation. Their society is full of people who feel uncomfortable and may discriminate against him. Having a safe haven, having a place where his people, his community make him feel safe and accepted is critical. Are you going to be that for him? Will you be his safe harbor? This has been a great question. Thank you so much for asking, and keep them coming. Keep your questions coming. So now I have a question for you. If you're watching this video, how would you have addressed this dad's issue? Do you have a question that you'd like to ask? If you like this video, consider checking out other questions that dads have asked. And lastly, remember, we become better men by spending time with good men. My name's Charlie King, and I'm with Heroic Fatherhood, and this has been your Mentor's Moment.